Welcome to the deep dive. We take a stack of sources and, well, pull out the key insights for you. Today, we're diving into a really unsettling case. It gives us a pretty sobering look at the darker side of things. The story of Howard Allen Cutler. It's a chilling story, full of violence, manipulation, but also it's about that relentless chase for justice, especially considering when these crimes happened. Our aim here is to walk through the facts of this tough case with respect, making sure you get a clear picture of the investigation that finally brought Cutler down.
Absolutely. In this case, it's such a key example of the kind of ingenuity law enforcement needed back in the pre-DNA days. It really throws a spotlight on the huge challenges they were up against before modern forensics became, standard, and how their breakthroughs really did pave the way for later investigations. So yeah, our goal isn't just what happened, but why this specific case made such a big impact on criminal justice overall.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. We often talk about how someone's background can shape their future actions. With Cutler, what little we know about his early life, or maybe what didn't obviously stand out. It seems to echo some disturbing patterns we sometimes see. He was born mid-20th century in the U.S., but yeah, details about his childhood. They're pretty thin on the ground.
Right. Specific details are scarce on Cutler himself. But investigators, even back then, before, formal profiling was really a big thing, they'd often look for certain behavioral markers, consistent stuff. Things like, say, cruelty to animals, maybe a fascination with setting fires, or just persistent trouble, vandalism in those teenage years. It's less about predicting, oh, this person will do X, and more about spotting a kind of chilling pattern, a lack of empathy, maybe poor impulse control, things that sadly sometimes show up later in much worse ways. It gives you that grim look back, a hint of potential future behavior.
And this unsettling background sort of leads us right into when Cutler's known crimes really started. This was in Florida, early 1970s. And he seemed to specifically target women who were, for one reason or another, in vulnerable situations at the time.
Yeah, and what's really disturbing about his approach was how deliberate he could be in disarming his victims. It wasn't always just a straight-up attack or abduction. Sometimes reports suggest he'd use deception, maybe offer help or, play on their sympathy somehow, just to gain their trust before attacking. It shows this calculated, deep-seated aggression, control, and that psychological manipulation seem just as important to him as the actual physical violence.
So when we talk about his MO, his modus operandi, his method, Cutler focused on approaching women in places where they were isolated or vulnerable somehow, making sure he had total control, could commit the crime without being interrupted. And the level of violence he used, it was apparently quite shocking, even for experienced police officers back then.
hmm And what seemed to set Cutler apart, at least from some other kinds of offenders, was that there wasn't always a clear why beyond just the act itself. Unlike killers who might have these elaborate rituals or take trophies, leave specific signatures, Cutler's violence often just seemed chaotic, like it was driven by this raw, uncontrolled impulse, which actually made him harder to profile initially. His attacks weren't about some specific fetish or dark signature, other than the sheer brutality.
Right. So the investigation into this string of murders linked to Cutler, it quickly ramped up, became one of the most intensive investigations in Florida's history at that point. But like you said, we have to remember, this is the pre-DNA era. The police are working with pretty limited forensic tools and often just a total lack of eyewitnesses. So how did they even start putting a case together when the evidence by today's standards was so, well, sparse?
Well, it really comes down to good old-fashioned detective work combined with some early, kind of ingenious forensic efforts. Before DNA, think about it. A single, unusual fiber found at a scene, carefully collected, looked at under a microscope. That could be a huge lead. Maybe they could trace it to a specific type of car upholstery or even a rare kind of jacket. Detectives would literally use these big maps on walls, pins, string, physically plotting out crime scenes. They were looking for geographic clusters, maybe overlaps in who the victims were, where they were last seen. These geographic and circumstantial links, as they call them, were absolutely vital. For instance, if several victims turned up near the same highway exit or they all went to similar types of places, that helped investigators narrow down potential hunting grounds. A crucial first step in building any kind of suspect profile back then. It was incredibly painstaking work, this careful observation, getting detailed witness statements, even if they didn't see the crime itself. And then the basic but really precise science of things like matching fingerprints, analyzing hair samples, often done manually, looking through microscopes.
Wow. So after years of this fear just hanging over communities, a critical tip finally pointed the police towards Howard Allen Cutler. This was in the early 1980s. And you can just imagine the feeling, the huge sense of relief that must have washed over people in Florida. The trial that came next, it wasn't just headline news, it really exposed the grim reality of serial crime to the public. But it also showed, I think, the incredible persistence of the justice system.
Oh, absolutely. The prosecution team, they really built a formidable case, piece by piece. They laid out all the evidence meticulously. Everything from those vital fiber comparisons and fingerprint matches to the detailed witness accounts that helped place Cutler near the victims around the times they disappeared. Now, the defense naturally tried to challenge the forensic evidence, poke holes in it, maybe argue for lesser charges. But the sheer accumulation, the weight of all that evidence pointing to him was just overwhelming. The jury saw it clearly. They came back with convictions on multiple counts of murder. Cutler received life imprisonment, which effectively, thankfully, ended his violent spree right there.
So, looking back on it all now, the Howard Allen Cutler case, it definitely gives us this chilling window into the real depths of human depravity. But maybe just as importantly, it stands as this powerful example of law enforcement battling serial predators in that really critical time before DNA technology. This case specifically, it just highlighted how crucial those early forensic steps were becoming, and how important it was for different police departments and agencies to actually work together to share information.
Exactly. And for the families of the victims, I mean, no conviction can ever truly heal that kind of loss, can it? But it did provide some measure of accountability, maybe some sense of closure, finally knowing he was caught and convicted. This case really forces us to think, doesn't it? Not just about the awful things that happen, but about the bigger picture. It raises that question. How do we keep working to protect our communities, especially looking out for those who might be most vulnerable among us?
Precisely. It gets you thinking. How do we as a society really learn the lessons from cases like Cutler's? Because it's not just about getting better at investigations, improving the science. It's also about spotting and maybe trying to fix those vulnerabilities in society that predators like him are so quick to exploit. What insight really stands out to you after this deep dive?
If you enjoyed this video and want to dive deeper into more cases like this one, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to like the video if you found the story compelling, and share it with your friends and family who might be interested in true crime and mysteries. By subscribing, you'll stay up to date with all our latest content and join a growing community of curious minds exploring the most fascinating cases. Click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything.